No, you're good. Okay.
I'm telling you, it's not that hard. Oh. I've eaten some of my sister's cooking that was tougher than eating one of these. All you have to do is eat one of these, and we'll let you make the finals. Oh. I'm very brave. It's not that difficult. I told you. Gina, come back over here.
No, I can't. Oh my God.
Gina.
Are you
Gina.
Well, that was disgusting. That was gross. I don't know who in the world would ever do something like that. Actually, I'm just kidding. I do know who would do something like that. I can change this. I'll tell you. I don't know how to make
Yeah,
this
just
go.
X out.
Like, there's no mouse.
Push escape.
Show it again. Yeah.
There's like this, like, thing that says that.
RT.
There we go. What is this?
Yeah, that's what came up. Alright, so anyway, I don't know who in the world would eat the bug. Just kidding. Actually, 80% of the world's nations practice entomophagy. And that was brought to you by an article in The Guardian. And in case you're wondering what entomophagy is the practice of eating insects by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Now, don't worry, this isn't a new thing. People didn't just start eating bugs for fun. It actually has been happening long ago, since the origins of the earth, since when people first started being on the earth. So, back in the day, people didn't have agricultural techniques to mass produce vegetables, crops, stuff of that nature. People also didn't have the weapons to kill big animals for meat and protein. They needed other ways to get their protein and their nutrients. So they resorted to eating bugs. And I know you're probably thinking, Billy, you didn't live thousands and thousands of years ago. How do you know this? Well, I'm glad you asked, because there's actually a lot of evidence for eating bugs. For example, there's a cave right here in the United States. It's in the Ozark Mountains, which is between Arkansas and Missouri. And in this cave, researchers went in there and they found that humans had made these boundaries, and they would make different types of bugs isolated. They isolated the mites, they isolated the lice, they isolated the ants. And they actually hypothesized that the locals in the town from way back in 2000 to 2500 BC would come in this cave, they would get the type of bug that they wanted, and then they would bring that out and prepare it for whatever meal they were having that night. So there's one evidence. These things right here are cocoons, and you can see there's a large hole in it. These are often found in ruins of old countries, old civilizations, and what is hypothesized is they had the cocoon, and the locals would drill a large hole in it, and they would take the silkworms out of the hole, and then they would then consume the silkworm's pupae, which is an edible part of what is inside the cocoon. And those are just two examples. There's many examples of people eating bugs and the ways that they got them way back in the day. And it is also a fact that over 1,000 bugs have been eaten by man, and that was from the Encyclopedia of Entomology. Current examples of people eating bugs? Well, these right here are grubs. They are very popular in Australia, which is, I feel like it's very civilized, they're not poor. And as you can see, this is like a nice restaurant. Right here, these are candied-covered grasshoppers. They're very popular in Japan from what I've researched, but the thing I noticed is this is actually written in English, which means they're not only eaten in Japan, they can be eaten in maybe Spain, Europe, Australia, or maybe even North America, anywhere where they speak English. All the way on the right, that's deep-fried tarantula, very popular in Cambodia. Yeah, I don't know how it's popular, but it is. Right here, these are locusts. They're eaten in dessert in Nigeria in a festival, I believe. And as you can see, it looks like a festive dish. And right here, these are deep-fried crickets. And the deep-fried crickets are from Ghana. I don't know much about Ghana, but they beat us in the World Cup, and they like deep-fried crickets. But these aren't the only examples of bugs that are eaten. There's plenty more, and they can be fried, roasted, eaten raw, steamed, boiled, broiled, and they can be eaten raw with vegetables and spices. That's your kind of thing. So, all right. So So people just don't go out in the wilderness one day and I'm like, I'm gonna go eat some bugs. They don't do that. There's actually this thing called mini livestocking. And mini livestocking is the intentional cultivation of arthropods for human consumption. Now don't worry, arthropods is just a big fancy word for insects and bugs. And so what happens is, you know how we breed cattle and we breed chickens and then we use them in our food. It's kind of the same thing except they breed bugs and insects and then use them in their food. Now there are a couple benefits which I'm going to go further into detail in my persuasive speech about, but just some of the basics are, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Bugs use a lot less energy and a lot less space than cultivating cattle and chicken. For example, you don't have to feed the bugs as much. The bugs don't consume water. Also, they don't take as much space, which leads me to another point. Everyone knows about the cruelty and the brutality of the meat industry. All the animals are stuffed in the small spaces on a large scale. With mini livestocking, there's not as much of that. It's not as brutal. It's more eco-friendly. And so that's why the countries that mini livestock choose to do that, and that's a big advantage of mini livestocking. But yet, some countries choose not to eat bugs, and there are many reasons why, but the two main reasons are, as you saw in the beginning, it's considered cultural taboo in many countries to eat bugs. We are raised as we were kids, don't eat bugs, that's disgusting, that's gross, it's wrong, so that's one reason why a lot of people don't do it. And then a more legitimate reason as to why people don't do it is because nowadays you have the pesticides, you have the herbicides to kill bugs. If a bug is sprayed with the pesticide or the herbicide and then we eat it, that's obviously not good for our body. That's a risk. You don't want to keep bugs in that case. So, now that you guys know about entomophagy, we're going to eat some bugs. I mean gummy worms. So, the first person you can tell me what percentage of the world nation eats bugs?
80.
Yes, you and the gummy worms?
Oh, not all of them.
Yeah.
Real
But
deep.
I'll show you.
You guys can share with the class.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for being a good audience.
Sorry guys, I had to jump in
I
there.
hope you guys know one more.
Thanks, Phil.